It's so wonderful to have each one of you joining us here this evening. It's a pleasure to have you amongst us. Ravi, I'm going to start by asking you, because as I said, this is an issue that has to be addressed at a leadership level. It is as much top-down as it is bottoms-up. And I know that this is something that you have made your mandate to create an equal opportunity workforce. And you've set yourself some pretty aggressive targets as well in terms of diversity and balance. Let's hear from you on what you are doing at Cognizant, what's working, what you intend changing.
The tech services industry has a pretty good diversity ratio because we get a good feeder of very diverse talent from schools which we hire. So the NASSCOM estimate says that the tech services space has 36% women. Cognizant is actually a leader in it. In fact, we are the top company. We have 40% diversity. And a variety of things have actually contributed to it. Counterintuitively, our presence in small cities gives us much more diversity. I have two centers in Coimbatore and Kochi, where my diversity is 48 to 49%. So we're pretty close to the 50% mark. So the feeder from schools is a very important thing, but that's a natural feeder. It's evolved over the years for the industry. The second most important thing is we have a top-down mandate as much as there's a bottom-up feeder. Right from the board, all the way from the management and the leadership, we have a lot of diversity attached to it. The biggest challenge for the industry, and I think it's probably true for many industries in India, is the diversity falls off in the middle, and then it further falls off as you get to the leadership. So at Cognizant, we actually run a program called Shakti, which is a comprehensive way of covering the whole thing. So I'll be very quick on this. We have a program called Rise, which allows us to mentor and curate the experiences for mid-managers to go to the senior leadership. Then we have something called Propel, and these words are, in some ways representative
Shakti,
of what...
Rise and Propel.
Yeah,
okay.
And Propel actually is, we have 1,500 women in the mid-management who aspire to go to the senior leadership, and we actually do a phenomenal job of, equipping them to get there. The third actually is a returnship program. That's a big issue in India. I mean, as much as there is a social net, and I think counterintuitively again, I live in the US, there isn't a social net, but you have more representation of women in the mid-careers, if I may. It should be much more because you have a social net here, there is a lot of support system, but women walk away and they don't come back. So we run a returnship program where we train, and we do that in a paid way. It's a paid exercise, and we reskill and bring them up to speed so that there is parity when they come in. Not coming in is not enough. They need to have parity. And we almost, in a green channel, anybody who leaves us performing, we almost give them a green channel to come back. And we use this 12-week program to bring them up to speed and get them in. And then we have a program at the bottom which is called Be Gritty, and it is for the school graduates, the ones who come from school. We want them to be ambitious right there. I mean, that's where you have to start so that you don't give it away, and then you move forward. And we are also one of the employers who has a menopause policy. Very few companies in India, we have a menopause policy where we have a psychological safety net. You have a psychological safe culture to discuss and actually feel safe about it, and we have a flexible workplace to support it, because that, it's a double whammy, because you're moving up the career and you're going through a biological clock. And I think we do that in a very sensitive way, and we want the allyship of men to understand and not have a unconscious bias around it.
You know,
so we push that, and this is a policy I'm very excited about. We launched it last year.
Well, I have to say that this is something that I truly believe that, I would not have imagined that I would be having a conversation with a CEO, a male CEO, on a platform like this, talking about having a policy in place addressing the issue of menopause, because even women don't talk about it. So it's really heartening to note that this is something that is being acknowledged, and there is an intervention to be able to address this, and I think that truly is a mark of a listening and a sensitive organization. So thank you, Ravi, for sharing that with us. But Anil, I want to pick up on the point that Roshni made, that very often the interventions are almost as if you are trying to fix a women's problem when you actually have an organizational issue that requires redressal, that requires reorientation, re-engineering, rewiring. At ITC, I know that this is again something that you've been championing across various divisions within the organization. What's been the big takeaway? What's been the big lesson?
So, hello. So diversity, equity and inclusion is certainly a high priority area for us as well at ITC, and we've spent, we have a very firm policy on these subjects, and every division of ours has, done a lot of work towards this particular area. And I think I'll talk about ITC hotels because I represent the ITC hotels, and I'm, if I was just to give you an example, 30% of my senior leadership team is women. And this was an industry where only the executive housekeeper probably was a lady. Today you see general managers, our corporate chef is a lady. Somebody I think spoke about Bharat Mandapam. I must tell you, the entire catering was done by this lady chef, the biggest ever catering which was done in India. And Mr. Kant is sitting here, who kind of guided us. But this was led by one of our corporate chefs, Manisha Basin, my head of development. So I think it's all about creating the environment. It's about the ecosystem. It's about the culture to make it not just a great place to work, but also a very safe place to work. So we have put in a lot of effort in this particular area to make sure that you create the environment, our policies, whether it's flexi working hours, whether it's hybrid work system, whether it is maternity leave, whether it is extended maternity leave, whether women credit services in hotels, whether it's credit services in factories, etc. I think these all really allow you, they help a woman who has many more responsibilities as well. So that's a role that they play, and I think you need to help them achieve that. So there's a lot of work that we do with them, and I think we also have a group which actually listens to them. So when these policies are framed, you listen to them and you understand what is it exactly that they need to make it a happy workplace for them, and which allows them to do both the roles equally well.
Well, yes, feedback is very important because policies should work for people and not the other way around. But Ambassador, let's address what's happening within the EU at this point in time and how much of a priority this is, and what do you see as the path forward in terms of being able to forge common interventions across the EU?
Thank you, Shereen. And first of all, I wanted to say we don't see the stars. I saw the stars in the eyes of many of these women achievers tonight. Yes. It's a bit fresh on stage, but I felt a lot of energy, fire yes. in many of those people. So it's and women, it's fantastic, I must say. And I can understand and relate to what the Minister Irani said about, you may have reports about gender gap and what is important, what people are doing, and in this country is quite amazing. So thank you very much for organizing such events, because I think it speaks a volume about the thrust and energy of women in this country. In Europe, I mean, we've been, and I think it's around the world, we still trail behind what we should do with respect to women. I think there is still a culture, a male culture of entitlement across the board in administrations, in private companies and around the world, and even in arts and in business. And I think we still need to fight that. There is an orange poster on the door of my office. And it's also a way to remind myself, to remind everyone that you have to care and act for women, with women. At the EU, we have developed different kinds of policies, and just this week, the European Council adopted a bill, a law,
Yes.
on domestic violence against women, which shows that we all have something to do.
Yeah.
When we look at our foreign policy, we have a commitment to have 85% of all our actions which are directed towards empowering women. So whatever we do, we have a gender marker, a gender approach to whatever we do. And we, of course, have different kind of activities that we support around the world. It's under the Gender Action Plan, GAP. And within that framework, we're also very active here with our partners in India. And there are different ways of line of actions on gender-based violence, but also empowering women in the field of digital and green transition. And by the way, we are funding an NGO, a CSO, that has won a prize at COP27 precisely for empowering women and facilitating green transition. So there is a lot of potential here, but also we have to walk our talk. And walking our talk is also in our own organizations. In the European institutions, there is about 50% female in position of middle management and senior management. It's been a long haul, and it's been only possible because there was positive discrimination. If there was no such a policy, we will not be there. It shows that we need to press. It does not fall from the sky.
Yeah.
And for all the determination of the woman, all this action, we don't have to hand down, as someone said. It's not about pitying. It's about allowing, enabling. And I think this is what we are trying to develop in our own organizations. We have a group in the European Diplomatic Service called the Women's Diplomat in Action. So, and I can tell you they are very much in action.
Well, but that's good to hear.
No, but it's also a way of engaging also with other women diplomats from other countries. We also here have in Delhi, the European member states, the 27 member states, we have a designated EU gender champion. So every 6 months they rotate. For now it's Italy, before it was France, next will be the Netherlands. And it creates a platform for engagement with the civil society, with art, culture, Indian interlocutors and organizations to promote also women action, sensitize. So there are many, many ways to engage. And if I were not enough convinced, I have 2 little daughters at home that remind me every day that I should support women empowerment. And even if I would not do it, they take their own empowerment in their hands.